helping you make informed decisions for your life. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
Welcome to Health Crusades with John Farley. Be prepared to enhance your lifestyle, physical, mental, emotional, financial, and intellectual empowerment. Now welcome your host, John Farley.
Welcome to Health Crusades, everyone. I'm John Farley, and this is the show you want to turn to each week and tell your friends about if you want to have better health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and today, better financial health. My guest is Mr. Aaron Russo, who's been the producer of Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and The Rose with Bette Midler. And Aaron, welcome to Health Crusades.
Hey, thank you. Glad to be here, buddy.
So let me give you just a little background of how I got interested in this, and then we'll get into how you got interested in this. But I was doing a seminar in New York City in 1993, and because it was such a unique seminar, the host of Good Morning America came down, they filmed it, and it was on television. So at this seminar, a man and a woman approached me, and we got friendly, and they gave me a videotape. And this videotape, it was like a copy of a copy, so it was a bit grainy, and it was professionally done, but it still wasn't the highest quality. But essentially, what was on this videotape said very, very strongly, without equivocation, it said, the income tax is a fraud. And this shocked me. I had obviously never heard this before. The whole world was giving me different information. If you even mentioned this to a person, they looked at you. They actually wanted to back away from you. I mean, it was as if all of a sudden you were contaminated just for saying something like that. And now you have come out with a film, America, Freedom to Fascism, which says that and a lot more. And so tell me briefly, tell all of us, how did you get interested in this topic?
Well, that's an interesting thing. The movie actually started out to be called April 15th, The Real April Fool's Day. And that was the original title. But as I was making the movie, I decided to make it more comprehensive than just about the income tax. I had been hearing for years about the income tax being fraud, like you saw that tape. And I never quite believed. I was never sure if it was just people talking, and just wishing and fanciful. So after I ran for president in the Libertarian Party, and I came in second in the election for the nomination, I had free time on my hands. I decided to take my movie-making skills that I had acquired over the years and my political knowledge and make a movie and find out about whether the income tax situation was whether that was just smoke and mirrors or whether there really was a tax, Is this something that people are just talking about? And I thought it'd be an interesting documentary to find out. So I called up the IRS, and I said, listen, I'm interested in making a documentary about the IRS and the income tax on your labor, because I've been hearing stories for years that there's no law that requires you to pay an income tax. Is there any such law? And I asked them straight out, and they directed me to that website. And I went to the website, and I couldn't see any law there. And just the response from the IRS I thought was kind of strange. So I decided to get into it a little deeper. And there are a group of people who are holding a protest down in Washington called We the People Foundation. They were going to serve the IRS a lawsuit to show them the law. And I thought that might be interesting to film. Let me film that, and let me see where I go with this movie, if there's anything in this or not. And the more I got into it and the deeper I went, the more I realized that there was no law. And as I started investigating it, the truth started coming to the surface very, very clearly. The situation is really very simple. In 1894, the Supreme Court, the Congress tried to pass a law putting a tax on your labor, and the Supreme Court said you can't do that, it's unconstitutional. So in 1913, they tried to pass the 16th Amendment allowing a tax on your labor, and that 16th Amendment was never ratified legally, even though Philander Knox, who was then secretary, said it was, And so people thought there was now an amendment that allowed it. However, 3 years later, in 1916, the Supreme Court ruled very clearly that the 16th Amendment did not give the government the power to tax the labor of the American people. And there were 8 Supreme Court decisions that there were 7 more that followed that one between 1916 and 1923, all saying the same thing, that the 16th Amendment does not give the government the authority to impose a direct, unapportioned tax on the labor of the American people. And as you know and I know, there is no court above the Supreme Court. They make the final determination on these matters. And so in 1917, the tax stopped. They did the tax for 3 years, and it stopped because of the Supreme Court decisions. And then when I interviewed the IRS commissioner in my movie, I asked him, well, what gives you the authority to impose this tax? And he said the 16th Amendment. And then I asked him, well, the Supreme Court said the 16th Amendment didn't give you that authority. And his response to me was, Supreme Court decisions are inapplicable to the IRS.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. You know, we all know that's not true. The IRS is not above the Supreme Court. And so there is no law. And even the IRS code doesn't show any law. There's never been a statute written by Congress that allows it. I mean, and even if there was, it still wouldn't be legal because the Supreme Court has ruled on it. And so there is no statute written by Congress that allows a direct, unapportioned tax on the labor of the American people. And the Supreme Court's ruled on that situation, and it's a fraud. It's no different. You know, many people ask me when they see the movie, well, should I pay my taxes or not, and my income taxes? And I say to them, look, I could never tell you not to, because if the mafia came to you and tell you we want the $2,000 a month, and if you don't pay us, you're going to get hurt, I could not advise you not to pay them, because you might get hurt. But I can tell you this, whether you pay those income taxes on your labor or not is a decision everybody has to make on their own. But there is no law that requires it, and that's the bottom line, and it's a fraud. And the government is committing a fraud, and it's part of why you have the fascist government in this country. The income tax is constitutional, but what you have to understand, the word income has been defined by the Supreme Court as a corporate gain, a corporate profit, not a tax on your wages, not a tax on your labor. So while you can have a tax on a corporation's profits and gains, and that would be defined as an income tax. So that is totally constitutional. And last year, the tax on labor, on the American people's labor, paid almost $1 trillion in taxes, while the tax on corporations paid a little over $200 billion. And that's why I call it fascism, because the corporations are getting away with everything. I mean, America today is run by corporations, and the American people are suffering because of it. America is no longer about the individual. It's about big institutions, big corporations controlling everything. And the largest corporation of all, and this is where the movie gets into, which is the more important part of the movie than the IRS part, in my view anyway, is that the Federal Reserve System is the largest corporation in the world. It's a private corporation that makes the money for America.
Yeah, now that's very interesting, and I've certainly read some books by economists, economists with PhDs in the subject, one in particular, who explain the Federal Reserve. It is a bit complicated, but explain that to people. What is, because we see that you pull out a dollar bill, just pull a dollar bill out of your pocket, and you will see on there Federal Reserve note.
Right. Well, it says, first of all, it's not federal. It's a private bank. It's a banking cartel comprised of the major banks in America, owned by a select group of people. The New York Fed runs the Federal Reserve System. They control over 50% of it. So it's really the New York Fed that's in control of the Federal Reserve. And there are a few families that control the New York Fed. And this private group of people control the money of America.
Now, I called up, just so people know, I personally, when I was in New York, I picked up the phone. It was late, very late at night. Picked up the phone, got the phone number for the Federal Reserve in New York, called up, somebody answers. I said, hi, I just have a simple question for you. Are you a private entity or are you a government entity? And he said, I don't know, hold on. Then he came back and he said, private.
That's right.
And then I was in graduate studies with a woman who worked for the Fed in New York for 10 years, and I asked her, so is the Fed private or is it government? She said, it's government. And I said, no, you're wrong. So tell us more about that.
Well, it's a private entity. It was incorporated in 1913, and the reason the Federal Reserve came into existence, you see, why the income tax came into existence is because in 1913, the government handed over their power to create and issue money that the government has to this private bank. And when the government needed money, they had to borrow it from this banking cartel instead of making it themselves without interest. And so they now had to borrow the money from this banking cartel, and that's why they try to impose the income tax on your labor so that you could pay the interest to these bankers and give them bigger profits. You see, the income tax on your labor really came as a device to pay interest to the banks. Before the Federal Reserve System, the government was sort of limited on how much money they could print because of the gold. And so by creating the Federal Reserve System, they could now borrow as much money as they wanted from this banking system without limitation. And so what's happened is that you've created this massive inflation in this country because the printing of currency has been so enormous, and at the same time you've created the most immense amount of debt in this nation. So because of the Federal Reserve System, you've gotten the worst of both worlds. You've gotten huge debt and huge inflation. You no longer have a money supply that's that's controlled. It's out of control, and so the money you get, the cash, it loses its value every day. I mean, my father bought a house in 1955 for $27,000. That same house sold recently for over $1 million, $1.2 million. So it went up 50 times in dollar cost because the Federal Reserve prints so much currency. See, people think when the house goes up in cost that the house is appreciating. What's really happening is that the dollar is depreciating. It takes more dollars to buy the same object, whether it's a loaf of bread, chicken, steak, a car, medical insurance, going to college. It takes more and more dollars to buy the same thing year in and year out. And that's because they keep printing more and more of that currency, or they keep putting more and more computer digits into the system and creating more and more of this fake money. And so everything goes up in cost, in dollar cost. That's why it's very hard to retire today. It's hard to make a living.
Fascinating. All right, when we come back, my guest is Mr. Aaron Russo, and his new film, America, Freedom to Fascism, is out there, and you're going to get a chance to see it. I'm John Farley. This is Health Crusade. We'll be back in a moment.
Opinions, options, answers. Voice America Health and Wellness.
Find more information on earning the college degree at home by visiting www.opi.edu. You will find information on personal fitness careers, health club management, natural health, sports psychology, and nutrition. That website again is www.opi.edu or call 866-796-6716 in the U.S. That's 866-796-6716.
Hi, this is Mark Victor Hansen. You know me for Chicken Soup for the Soul, the 1 Minute Millionaire, and Cracking the Millionaire Code. And what I want you to know is that if you want to have rip-roaringly good health, listen to Health Crusades by my friend John Farley.
Did you know that only 1 in 20 people who lose weight are able to keep it off long term? Are you able to lose weight but can't seem to maintain your success? If this describes you, then the primary factor stopping your long-term weight management success is not your exercise or dietary program. The major factor determining your long-term success is your mindset and mental skills. Dr. John Farley created Sleep Slim, a revolutionary new program designed for those who go up and down in weight. Sleep Slim is the answer for those who struggle with weight, whether you like exercise or not, whether you follow a strict diet or not, Sleep Slim works. Based on sports psychology techniques and principles, Sleep Slim allows you to break through mental, emotional blocks to success. Go online to www.sleepslim.com and sign up for more information about Sleep Slim. Developed after a lifetime of work with athletes and clients, Sleep Slim uses the power of the subconscious mind to achieve greater success. Deep-seated beliefs and negative habits are difficult, if not impossible, for most people to change with positive thinking. When you use the Sleep Slim technology, you will be able to allow your subconscious mind to effortlessly change your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Visit www.sleepslim.com. That's www.sleepslim.com and sign up for more information on this cutting-edge program and lose weight tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this is your personal physical instructor, Jack Lalanne. If you want to feel better, if you want to look better, if you want to enjoy life more, stay tuned in for my good friend, John Farley. Stay tuned. That's important.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to Health Crusades with John Farley. To call in with a question or comment, dial 866-472-5792. Now back to the show. Here's John Farley.
Welcome back to Health Crusades, everyone. My guest is Aaron Russo. We're talking about his film, America, Freedom to Fascism. And, Aaron, we're going to get right back into the Federal Reserve System in a moment. But here was an interesting thing that kind of shifted my mindset, and maybe it had a similar effect for you and it will for other people. And that is simply this, that the money that is paid on the work that someone does is their property, right?
Yes.
And so when a company or even the IRS says, okay, we're going to withhold money from you, it's similar to someone walking up to you and saying, well, we're just going to hold on to your car, or we're going to hold on to your wallet, or we're going to hold on to your shoe, something that's your property, and you don't get to get it back until we tell you. And matter of fact, you got to fill out a form, and you got to send this in and swear to it, and then we'll give you what's yours back.
Well, they'll give you part of it back. Here's the concept.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that each one of us owns our own life. John, you own your life. I own my life. I don't own you. You don't own me. And the government doesn't own any of us. We own ourselves. We're property to ourselves. And because we own ourselves, we own our labor. We own our labor. And our labor is private property to us. So when you work for somebody and you give them labor, your labor, you're giving them your private property. And in return, they're giving you something they own back. And it's an exchange. It's not a gain. It's not a profit. It's an exchange. And the Supreme Court has ruled that taxes, an income tax is a tax on our corporate gain, a corporate profit, not on wages, not on labor. And they ruled that because of what I'm explaining to you now. And so your labor has been ruled as private property by the Supreme Court. And that's because we each own our own lives and our own labor. And so when they hold back your money, that's actually stealing your property. You know, your labor is something is designed for you to feed yourself and your family. It's not for the government to take from you.
Right.
There are many other taxes. The most amazing thing about it is that all the money that we pay in taxes, not one penny of it, not one penny of the tax on our labor goes to infrastructure of the government or the services you expect from the government. It all goes to pay interest on the government's debt, which they don't have to have in the first place, and it goes towards government waste. Not one penny goes to improve anything.
Now, it's a good point, and your movie makes you have a very funny scene in there where you go through all the taxes, and I must admit, even I didn't think there were that many taxes.
That's only part of them. That's only part of them, John.
Is that right?
There's many more, yeah. And there's many more fees, which they don't call taxes. They call them fees, you know.
Right, yeah, that's something. So there's all of those taxes and it's amazing. Continue what you were saying.
You're a hamster on a wheel. You see, people think that your taxes go to pay for the roads or the highways. That's not true. The tax on gasoline pays for the highways. They think it pays for schools. Your local property taxes pay for schools. The tax on your labor goes to pay interest that the government pays on the money they borrow, which they don't have to borrow in the first place. You see, they don't have to borrow the money of the government. They can make money. The government has the ability to make money without borrowing it. And that's the point. And the problem, of course, is that whether it's the government or the Federal Reserve, if they print too much money, it creates an inflation that destroys the currency over time. And that's why you have a gold standard to back the currency, so that you can't print too much. If this country were back on a gold standard with the government printing the money based on the gold, the cost of living in America would be 1/30th of what it is today.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, I was actually having dinner with some folks. We were in a special program together, and somehow this topic came up. And one of the women who was there got, visibly angry, and she was saying, well, people like that, these people who don't pay their taxes, these tax protesters, and, she was very adamant, they are cheaters and it is wrong. And I stopped her and I said, you have to understand something, that they have a totally different mindset than you. And we went into it, but it goes back to this fear that on the one hand that, hey, I'm paying my fair share, you pay your fair share, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you and we got to stop you. So that's ingrained in us. Well,
it is. That you've been taught that. That's part of the psychological operations that the government pulls on us. You've been taught that to be a good citizen, you have to pay this tax. They've indoctrinated us into thinking. Look, if you went out on this, I can't tell you how much indoctrination the people of America have had. Through television and radio. It's unbelievable. If you went out onto the street, and I ask your listeners listening today, if I ask you the question, what kind of government, is America supposed to be? 98% or more would tell you a democracy. Okay?
Right.
America is supposed to be a democracy. Well, that's wrong. America is not supposed to be a democracy, folks. As a matter of fact, democracy was considered by the founding fathers as one of the worst forms of government you could have. America was founded as a constitutional republic, not a democracy. The word democracy is not in the Constitution one time. It's not in the Bill of Rights one time. It's not in the Declaration of Independence one time, because it was never supposed to be a democracy. In a democracy, 51% of the people control 49%. That's called tyranny of the majority, and the founding fathers understood that. You see, and I wouldn't want to be part of the 49% and be controlled by what 51% said. In a constitutional republic like America was founded to be, 99% of the people can't take away the rights of 1%. They're your rights because you were born. You have God-given human rights, and no one can take them away from you, not your neighbor and not the government and not the majority. You have rights because you're a human being. And all human beings have rights, and they're not granted by the government. And but yet today, in the same way that woman thinks that you're supposed to pay these taxes, you've been indoctrinated into thinking that. You've been indoctrinated into thinking that America is a democracy. They keep telling you this stuff. We're fighting in Iraq for democracy. We're not fighting in Iraq for democracy. Democracy is another word for the New World Order. It's a word for one world government. That's what it's for. And they want to tell you that whatever the majority thinks is what we have to do. And then they control the voting machines. They tell you what you're supposed to think. They control the mind. And then the word democracy is a way for them to achieve whatever they want. And that's the problem we face in this country. People have been indoctrinated into thinking a certain way, and we've lost the ability for critical thinking, for thinking through issues. And we just accept things at face value.
Yeah, it's a good point. And something you said very quickly, which we can reiterate, was that these rights are not given by government. They're given by God, and we're born with those rights. That's what you were saying.
Exactly. We have rights because we're born. We have human rights. And the fact is we give the government a certain authority. The government doesn't give us rights or privileges.
They're supposed to protect our rights.
Exactly. That's their job, is to protect our freedoms, protect our rights. And they're not doing that. They're taking them away. And that's why I call it freedom to fascism. That's what's happening in America. And by the way, anybody listening to this interview, you can watch the movie for free on Google Video if you wish to. You know, I put it out there because I felt the movie was so important to be seen that if you go to Google Videos and type in America Freedom to Fascism, you can watch the movie for nothing. Or if you want to, you go to my website, freedomtofascism.com, and you can buy the DVD and have house parties and show it to people and wake America up, because we are heading into a complete police state, totalitarian country here, and people had better wake up to the truth. And the only way to stop it that I know of is to shut down the Federal Reserve System, because these bankers now control our government, and we are no longer in control of our own government, and it's happening all over the world. I mean, I don't know if your audience knows about, you know, the SPP and the North American Union that's happening here, where they're combining America, Canada, and Mexico into one nation.
No, I'm sure they don't. Please tell us about that.
Well, in 2005, Bush, Vicente Fox from Canada, and the gentleman from Canada, whose name I forget for the moment, all signed an agreement that they're going to merge the countries by 2010. Go on the White House website. They're talking about it there. And the fact is that we no longer have a constitution here. We've lost habeas corpus. We've lost the eminent domain. And that's what this whole immigration problem is about, is that the bankers want a one-world government without borders, and how the American government is listening to them. That's why even after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, they never closed our borders up to protect the country, but they told you had to have an ID card. You know, by May 2008, all Americans, by law, have to have an ID card, or you can't fly a plane, you can't open a bank account. You know, and these ID cards are going to have RFID chips on them, where they can track you wherever you go. That's not America. I don't want to live in that kind of country.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you said that's going to be a law. It's in your movie.
It is a law. It's not going to be. It is a law. It's been signed into law. It's called the Real ID Act.
Oh boy, that's. It's frightening, actually. But there's people listening who are thinking to themselves, they're so indoctrinated that they're thinking, wait a second, if this were real, if this were a problem, George Bush and everybody else who's, quote, in charge would be helping us with this. I mean, they wouldn't be doing this to us. This can't be. I mean, I've sat down with people and they go, oh, you're one of those conspiracy people. And I say, well, conspiracies exist. I mean, you'd have to be dumb, stupid, and blind not to know that conspiracies of the government have existed. They're on file. It's a fact. And but yet they resist.
Well, they use that word because it's easier not to think. It's easier to just go along with the game and not be a thinking human being. You know, and that's the problem we face. We've been indoctrinated. Even the word conspiracy has been used to make you think you're a crazy person. That's how effective they are at the game they play. These people are incredibly smart, incredibly effective. I can tell you a great story. I was, I was good friends with one of the Rockefeller family. And
I was too. We'll have to talk.
Oh, you were?
Go ahead.
Okay, good. And anyway, we were talking one night, and we used to share a lot of this kind of discussion. And he said to me, Aaron, what do you think the women's liberation movement was about? And I said, I had very conventional thinking about it. And I said, I think it's about women's right to work, just like a man has a right to work and get equal pay with men. And just like women won the right to vote, they won the right to work. And he looked at me and started to laugh and said, you're an idiot. And I said, why am I an idiot? I know he didn't mean that. And he said, because, let me explain to you what that was about. We, the Rockefeller family, were one of the giant promoters of women's liberation. We would sponsor, we financed it. And I said, well, what was it about? He said, there were two reasons for it. The first reason was we couldn't tax half the population before women's lib. And the second reason was that we get the kids at an early age in school now, and we indoctrinate them how to think of the state as the parents, instead of the parents as the parents. And we tell them how we teach children how to think at an early age. And that's what it was about.
Amazing.
You know, and then that's indoctrination.
Amazing.
I thought it was totally about women's rights, honor, integrity.
Sure. Wow. All right, this is Health Crusades. This is fascinating. We come back, more about America, freedom to fascism. I'm John Farley. See you on the other side.
Learn more. Live better. Voice America Health and Wellness.
Find more information on earning a college degree at home by visiting www.opi.edu. You will find information on personal fitness careers, health club management, natural health, sports psychology, and nutrition. That website again is www.opi.edu or call 866-796-6716 in the U.S. That's 866-796-6716.
Did you know that only 1 in 20 people who lose weight are able to keep it off long term? Are you able to lose weight but can't seem to maintain your success? If this describes you, then the primary factor stopping your long-term weight management success is not your exercise or dietary program. The major factor determining your long-term success is your mindset and mental skills. Dr. John Farley created Sleep Slim, a revolutionary new program designed for those who go up and down in weight. Sleep Slim is the answer for those who struggle with weight, whether you like exercise or not, whether you follow a strict diet or not. Sleep Slim works. Based on sports psychology techniques and principles, Sleep Slim allows you to break through mental, emotional blocks to success. Go online to www.sleepslim.com and sign up for more information about Sleep Slim. Developed after a lifetime of work with athletes and clients, Sleep Slim uses the power of the subconscious mind to achieve greater success. Deep-seated beliefs and negative habits are difficult, if not impossible, for most people to change with positive thinking. When you use the Sleep Slim technology, you will be able to allow your subconscious mind to effortlessly change your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Visit www.sleepslim.com. That's www.sleepslim.com and sign up for more information on this cutting-edge program and lose weight tonight.
If you want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise, listen to Health Crusades with my friend John Farley. This is Robert Allen, author of some major New York Times bestsellers. I recommend highly that you listen to this show.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to Health Crusades with John Farley. To call in with a question or comment, dial 866-472-5792. Now back to the show. Here's John Farley.
Welcome back. Aaron Russo and I are talking about his new film, and the last thing that we left off with was the whole idea that the women's liberation movement was not about women's liberation, but about women's and children's indoctrination into state parenthood and taxation and all the rest of it. And so it brings us back to the Federal Reserve, and let's tell people more about that, because the Fed is, there's a book written some years ago. It's called Secrets to the Temple, How the Federal Reserve System Runs the Country. There's been some other books about the Fed, but nobody talks about the Fed. You see it on TV once in a while, and they'll say the Federal Reserve has, and they never go into any details. Tell us more about the Fed.
Well, the Fed is actually it's a central bank, and these central banks are happening all over the world, in all the industrialized nations of the world. And it's actually the graduated income tax and the central bank are two of the major planks of the Communist Manifesto.
Now, let me interject right here. People say, hey, well, why don't we just do a flat tax? We'll drop it down to 10% across the board. Then, everybody debates this. But if you think about this, if the government, pardon me, we're both having throat issues. If the government can put a 1% tax on us, they can put a 99% tax.
Yeah, they can, but the point is there's no need to have any of the taxes because the government can make the money without the taxes. That's the point. The government has the legal authority to print money, to make money, and it's backed by gold. And there's no need for the government to have to go out and borrow money and tax you to pay interest on that money. You see, there was no income tax on people's labor in America from the beginning of the country up until 1913, and they had surpluses every year. They weren't in deficit like they are today.
Now,
think about it.
Now, people's reaction to that is going to be varied, but one reaction is going to be, yes, but if we did away with the Federal Reserve, how would we be able to have credit and grow the economy or grow?
You had it the same way before you had the Federal Reserve System. There was no problem. There's no problem. You can borrow money. You can do whatever you need to do, but the government doesn't have to borrow money.
Okay.
There's
right.
no problem.
No problem there.
No. But you would borrow money from other people's deposits. In other words, today, like when you go to the bank today, let's say you want to borrow $50,000. You go to the bank and you tell the guy, all right, I want to borrow $50,000, and you fill out the forms, and he tells you, okay, here's $50,000, and now you look in your checkbook, and there's a $50,000 balance in there. And that, what happened was he sat down on a computer and typed in some digits, and now you have $50,000. That didn't come from anybody else's deposits. That didn't come from any gold or silver that was stored away. They just created that out of thin air. When you asked for it, they made that out of nothing. It came out of nothing. And so now you have to work and give them your labor again and pay them back principal and interest on something that these guys made for nothing out of thin air. And yet you have to work for them. You're their slave. You understand? At least in the past, when you borrowed money, it came from somebody else's deposits. They just couldn't make it out of nothing.
Right. What people need to know about that is it's called fractional reserve banking. And so when you put $1 into the bank has the right
to make $10 more.
To make $10 out of it.
Yeah, right.
10 times. So that's where the nothing is coming from.
And I don't even think they're even confined to the 10 times anymore.
Probably not.
They can just do whatever they want to do. And the fact is, when you say you want to run for president, okay, you need tons of money to run for president. So you have to go to all these corporations to give you money to beg for money so you can run for office. So they control you. It's all part of the fascist society of corporations running everything today. So with the Federal Reserve being the largest corporation of all. So instead of we the people own the airwaves of America. The airwaves belong to us. Okay? So if somebody wants to run for president, as an example, and they're on the ballot in all 50 states, and they have a possible chance of winning because they've achieved all the requirements they need to be on the ballot, then they shouldn't have to go out and get all this money from all these corporations to run. We own the airwaves, and everybody should be able to be heard who has a legal chance of winning for free. That should be part of the requirements these networks have for having their licenses to be on the air.
Now, two thoughts with that. One, I want to get back to the communism planks, but on the other side of that, people would say, well, with a country of whatever we have, 260 million people, everybody can't get on the airwaves, right? So there had to be some qualifying process.
Yeah, but if you're on the ballot in all 50 states and you have a mathematical chance of winning, it's not like you're some guy who's never been on the ballot. You can't have 1 million people in a debate. But if you've gone through the process of being on the ballot and you've achieved that, then people have a right to hear your ideas. It shouldn't be confined to just Republicans and Democrats. It's ridiculous.
Which you bring out in the movie, too. We should talk about that. And I've been saying this for years, that the Democrats and the Republicans are kind of like Michael Jackson and his sister. It's like you can't quite tell one from the other, you know what I mean?
Well, absolutely. Look, think about this. Let's say Hillary Clinton became the next president in 2008. You would have 25 years of Bushes and Clintons being presidents in this country. Think about that. As if there's no one else but a Bush or a Clinton that could be the president here. It's a joke. It's all controlled. It's all controlled. And the bankers own all these people. There's no difference between Republicans and Democrats anymore. They try and make like a difference, on this issue or that issue. But the main thrust of things, with the war in Iraq, the one world government, where this country is heading, the Federal Reserve System, none of those things are going to change, whether it's Republican or Democrat in office. None of those major policies of America are going to change because the Federal Reserve controls them both.
I was... a woman named Maureen Kennedy Salomon passed away this past year, and she was very pardon me, she was very well known for her stance on health and freedom of health, and big promoter of that. Wrote millions and millions of copies of books were sold of hers, and but she was a big believer in what the government was doing with Iraq, and I thought, gosh, here's this brilliant person who I don't want to say anything bad about. She's no longer here, but I thought to myself, if someone like that could be bamboozled into thinking that we've got some noble purpose invading this other country, how hard is it for the average person to objectively look at things and say, hey, the government is not telling me the truth?
Well, the fact is that the Iraqi situation is one where the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve System, and that's why Bush and Blair are so close. They're the ones who've been pushing the New World Order. They're the ones who've been pushing the war in Iraq because they want the Middle East to become part of the New World Order, and they want to control the oil fields in the Middle East. That thing in Iraq is not noble at all, And we keep saying we're fighting for democracy. Well,
we are. We are. We want to be the 51%.
Right. We're fighting for the New World Order, and that's what it's about. We're fighting so the bankers can control the world. That's why all our American soldiers are dying. It's for the bankers. What's that quote by Henry Kissinger? He says, American soldiers are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy. Yeah, I was in your movie, and it was shocking, actually. Oh, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting what's happening, and people don't have a clue. And this Federal Reserve walks around as if they're this respectable organization. These are some of the most evil people on the face of the earth. That's amazing. Now, the communism part that you brought up, because, again, if you say this to the average person, the idea of America and communism are so, opposed to one another that the average person even the above average person, quite frankly, cannot conceive of the two being together. But tell us about that. Well, whether you want to call it communism or socialism, or fascism, it's all under one umbrella called collectivism. And if you read the Communist Manifesto, and you'll discover that the central bank, which is what our Federal Reserve System is one of the key planks of the Communist Manifesto. A central bank that decides how much money is printed, how the money is used, that decides everything. That's not what capitalism is about. America never had a central bank when it was a capitalistic nation. That's when we were at our best, And the graduate income tax is another plank. And so they keep telling us we're a capitalistic nation, but at the same time we're doing things that are becoming more and more socialist every day, collectivist every day. America's a welfare state now. We're not a capitalistic nation anymore. Now, I know go ahead, I interrupted you. No, it's okay. I know a young woman who's from a country that used to be socialist/communist, and she thinks the difference between her country and our country are very great. But when we come back, let's talk about that, because that separation may be more smoke and mirrors. I'm John Farley. This is Health Crusade. We're going to be back in a moment.
Helping you make informed decisions for your life. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
Hi, this is Mark Victor Hansen. You know me for Chicken Soup for the Soul, the 1 Minute Millionaire, and Cracking the Millionaire Code. And what I want you to know is that if you want to have rip-roaringly good health, listen to Health Crusades by my friend John Farley.
Find more information on earning the college degree at home by visiting www.opi.edu. You will find information on personal fitness careers, health club management, natural health, sports psychology, and nutrition. That website again is www.opi.edu or call 866-796-6716 in the U.S. That's 866-796-6716.
Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Joyal with Life Extension. If you want to live a long time, listen to Health Crusades with my friend John Farley. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Did you know that only 1 in 20 people who lose weight are able to keep it off long term? Are you able to lose weight but can't seem to maintain your success? If this describes you, then the primary factor stopping your long-term weight management success is not your exercise or dietary program. The major factor determining your long-term success is your mindset and mental skills. Dr. John Farley created Sleep Slim, a revolutionary new program designed for those who go up and down in weight. Sleep Slim is the answer for those who struggle with weight. Whether you like exercise or not, whether you follow a strict diet or not, Sleep Slim works. Based on sports psychology techniques and principles, Sleep Slim allows you to break through mental, emotional blocks to success. Go online to www.sleepslim.com and sign up for more information about Sleep Slim. Developed after a lifetime of work with athletes and clients, Sleep Slim uses the power of the subconscious mind to achieve greater success. Deep-seated beliefs and negative habits are difficult, if not impossible, for most people to change with positive thinking. When you use the Sleep Slim technology, you will be able to allow your subconscious mind to effortlessly change your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Visit www.sleepslim.com. That's www.sleepslim.com and sign up for more information on this cutting-edge program and lose weight tonight.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Welcome back to Health Crusades with John Farley. To call in with a question or comment, dial 866-472-5792. Now back to the show. Here's John Farley.
Okay, I'm John Farley, and this is Health Crusades, talking with Aaron Russo. And so, Aaron, talk about the laws that are coming into being about supplements, because that's in your movie briefly as well, and that certainly impacts everyone and certainly listeners to this show. The ability not to be able to get supplements as freely as we'd like. Did you notice that in Germany? I know recently you were in Germany.
Well, what's happening is something called Codex, and it's coming in through the CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement, which is not really free trade. It never is. It's government-controlled trade, but they call it free trade, so it sounds good. But, the big drug companies have tremendous control of what's happening in this country today, and they don't really want supplements, and because more and more people are using them than ever before. And under this Codex Alimentarius, what's happening is they're going to deny you the ability to get supplements without doctor's prescriptions, and even what you do get, it will be minutia, much more scaled back doses of supplements, and it goes back to health freedom. You as an individual have every right to take whatever medicines you choose, and it's not up to the FDA to decide what you can and cannot have. I have no problem with the FDA saying, this is what we recommend, and then you're free to do whatever you choose to do. But I do have a problem when the FDA says you can't have this and you can have that, and that's all you can have. It's like I had cancer, and in America, if you have cancer, there are certain protocols you must live by if you have that cancer. Certain drugs you have to take. You can't. You can only have chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery legally in America if you have cancer.
Right. Yeah.
And I believe that's taking away my freedom. If I have cancer, it's my body, it's my life. I'll decide to do whatever I choose to do. If you want to make your recommendation, say I should have chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, that's fine. But don't limit what my choices are. And that's what's happening. And when I went to Germany, I had many more options. In other words, in Germany, when I did some chemotherapy there, but I did it there because it's very different than here. There, they can actually target the chemotherapy. They take the chemotherapy and they put it directly into on top of the tumor where your tumor is, and then they close off the vein so it can't travel throughout your body, so you don't get sick from it. It's targeted chemo. It's not systemic. And it's very different than they do it here. And
now, why is that different?
You tell me why. Over there, they actually take the tumor and they make a vaccination for it. When they took the tumors out of me, they took it and made a vaccination and vaccinated me so the cancer can't come back. You know, and they just do things very differently there. They look at your blood, they examine your blood, and see which elements work best against your cancer. You know, here, if you have cancer, you got to do this certain. You can only take a certain chemo for a certain cancer. You know, they limit what you can do, whether it works or not. You don't have the freedom to do the things you choose to do, to have the options you want to have. And I think that's fascism to me. You know, I'm a human being. I'll make my own decisions. You know, we want to make a recommendation, that's great. And maybe I'll listen to it, maybe I won't. That's my choice. I own my life. That's for me to decide, not for you to decide. It's not for you to decide what medicine I can have and can't have.
Yeah, it's a good point to keep coming back to that. You own your life. It's your life, and we say that kind of flippantly. Oh, it's my life, but we really don't think about that. Like, yeah, it is your life. You should be able to decide, and you have to decide your health. You know, your labor. You know, it's your life. And you have power, but you have to take responsibility as well.
What's happening in America is like the old frog theory. You know, you take a frog and you throw him into a pot of boiling water, the frog is going to jump right out. If you take the same frog and you put him into a pot of warm water and you slowly turn the heat up, it sits there until it boils to death. And that's what's happening to Americans. They do things very slowly here, and so you don't notice the subtleties and how you lose your freedoms. But we've lost so much freedom here. It's unbelievable. I mean, even take a Social Security number. When they start Social Security, it said right on your Social Security card that number was never to be used for identification. It never would. See, back then it wouldn't have passed. People understood their freedoms better back then, and it said right on my original Social Security card said not to be used for ID. It doesn't say that anymore on the card. Now they use it for ID all the time. You're becoming a number. You're becoming a thing. They're putting chips into people. You have to have ID cards. You're becoming a slave to these bankers, and people better wake up and get a hold of what's happening to them here. You know, it really is George Orwell's 1984. It's happening.
Yes, it's amazing. Now, what are you doing with the movie? I know you said people can watch it for free on the internet. I think that's fantastic. I think that's one of the best ways to just get millions of people to wake up. You're still having it out there in the theaters?
Well, we have it out in certain theaters, but we've been getting standing ovations everywhere we've been playing. But after George Bush signed this thing with habeas corpus, that we no longer have habeas corpus in America, I felt that the theater release was too slow, and I put it up on the internet for free so anybody in the world can watch the movie. You know, just go on the internet and watch it and learn what's happening. Learn why there's no law that requires you to pay an income tax. Learn what the Patriot Act is doing to you. Learn about these chips and these ID cards. Learn about the Federal Reserve System. Just go watch the movie. It doesn't cost you a penny. And if you watch the movie and you think it's as great as most people do, then go out and get the DVD and show it to other people. Have house parties. Show people. Wake up so America doesn't become a slave country. You know, we got to stop it. I mean, because America was a free country. It's only, if you look at history, it's only been a small window in time that we've had this freedom here. And if we lose it, we may never get it back again. And we are losing it every day. We're losing it and the problem is both political parties are disgusting. Republicans and Democrats are both disgusting parties. Neither one is protecting your freedom. And I say in the movie, stop being good Democrats, stop being good Republicans, and start being good Americans. You know, and being a good American means standing up for freedom of the individual, that we can each be the person we choose to be without government interference.
Yeah, I sent the link to just a handful of people so far. I wanted to get their reaction. So far I've gotten no response. And I'm wondering if that's just plain old fear, if they're just wondering, because it's a fantastic film. And everyone should go out, just go on the Internet, get a thing of popcorn, and sit there and enjoy this movie, but think about it and then share it with other people and spread the word.
I mean, we interview IRS agents, we interviewed the IRS commissioner, we interviewed congressmen. I mean, the movie is really, it's all based on facts. It's all real. It's all happening, and you better take, concern about this country and the future of this country and the world and what you want this world to be. Do you want America to become one country with Canada and Mexico and give up our Constitution and have a new currency called the Amero? That's what's happening here.
See, now people when they first hear this thing, they typically say, well, that can't happen here, that's not going to happen here, and then it happens, and then they say, well, it's no big deal, or it's in our best interest, or they're protecting us.
Right.
None of these things are true. It is going to happen, or it is happening, or it's happened, and it's almost never in our best interest.
Okay, it's not. It's in the banker's interest. It's not in the individual's interest. If you believe in individuality and you believe you have a right to live the life as you choose to live your life without interference, then you better do something to stop what's happening in this country and what's happening in the world, because you're heading into a one-world government. Just like the Euro, now they have the Amero. They want the Amero, the North American Union. And that means you have no more constitutional guarantees. You have no more Fifth Amendment. You have no more. You've lost habeas corpus in America. You've lost eminent domain. They can come and take your house whenever they want to now, without any cause. You understand? You're losing all your freedoms here, folks. Wake up. Stand up for something. Don't be a robot.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, what would you recommend that people do once they've seen this film, which they need to do?
Once they see the film, if they understand the film and they agree with the film, then sign up and volunteer with us to help us to shut down the Federal Reserve System, because the Federal Reserve is behind this whole thing. But my first thing is just watch the film. If after you see the film, you get it, and you see what's happening, then you can start doing something. That's the first thing to do. Just watch the film. That's the first step in the process.
It's fantastic. Mr. Aaron Russo, I really appreciate you being on today. It's fantastic. I want everyone to go to the website, AmericaFreedomToFascism.com, watch the film, pass it around, and I congratulate you and I commend your work.
Thank you very much.
Sure, my pleasure, and we'll be in touch soon, I'm sure.
Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, we'll see you next time. I'm John Farley. Take care. Spread the word.
Thank you for joining us today.